Good morning. Happy Monday. I don't know where all of you are coming from, but it's a little bit dreary outside my window today, which is kind of sad because it was such a beautiful weekend. But on the other hand, it's great to have a little bit of rain. So hopefully everybody's having a great Monday out there. I'm Mary Kimball. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Land-Based Learning, and it's Coffee with a Farmer, or this morning, Coffee with a Resource Manager. Kelly Ansaldo is with us today, and we'll be getting to her in just a bit and learning about her story and who she works for in the solar business, which is really cool. And today I'm also going to continue to discuss a little bit more about the Farms Leadership Program. And so I'm going to ask each of the coordinators who are around the state to give a little description of one field day. And remember that the programs have multiple field days in each region around the state, usually between 6 and 7 field days across the course of an entire school year with each group. But they're going to give just an example of one day so you can get an idea of the kinds of work that we do in training the next generation of scientists and ag leaders and natural resource conservationists. So I'm going to start actually with Joseph today. Joseph, make sure you unmute. We're missing Dana, so our Tehama coordinator's not here, but Joseph, go ahead and give us an example of one Farms Leadership Field Day.
Morning all, my name is Joseph Montoya. I'm the Farms Leadership Coordinator for the Sacramento Valley. One example of one of the farms field days that we spent was off in Davis. We went to the horse barn, and so we spent a lot of time with the horses. A lot of them come as not necessarily rescues, but after they have spent a professional career in races, maybe in shows, they will come to the farm, and then they spend the rest of the time there, and we really get a chance to learn a lot about the industry, and students really get a chance to get hands-on time with them, and it's just really cool to spend time just with horses. What else do you want, right?
Big old horses. Yeah, that's an awesome day at UC Davis. Great. Okay, Katie, you're up. Give us an example.
Good morning. My name is Katie Wortman. I am in Fresno, California. I'm the the Central Valley Farms Coordinator. And this year was the first field day that I'd ever had with kiwi. So we were able to learn all about kiwi with Katie Miller in CitraCare. We went out into the fields, which they are canopied fields. Students were able to see these huge mega kiwi is what they're called. So students were able to see how they were grown, how they get picked, and how they actually process at the processing facility. We were actually also able to go to the packer in the Dinuba area. So that was really exciting. With that, we do introductions and whatnot of our partners, and so students are very involved on every field day, hands-on, and it's very exciting when our partners love hosting our students. So we really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, and I got to go visit after that, and it was an absolutely beautiful farm. And I think we have Katie coming on, or we have her coming on, right, as one of our guests coming up from CitraCare. So looking forward to spending more time with her. Okay, and then let's go to Romy. We will check in Kern County.
My name is Romy Wanbarger. I'm the Kern County Coordinator here in Bakersfield. And I would say one of my favorite one is when we went to Perfection Pet Foods Company. We got to see how they actually make dog food and biscuits, because we were all interested how they actually do all that. So we got to go inside the factory all geared up. The kids were all in their hazmat suits, and they actually pulled off fresh biscuits off the belt that they put them on, and we got to feel them. They're all and got to roll them up in a ball, and just hands-on stuff that they got to see how their pet, everybody probably has dogs or cats, how they eat it, and walking through the pallets they said they had about 1 million pounds full of food that they were just taking out every day. So it was really interesting to see, and the kids loved it.
Yes, that was a neat one. I want to try to go to that field day in the years to come. Western Milling and Perfection Pet Foods are a great partner of ours. All right, and then Letty.
Hi, good morning. My name is Letty Hernandez. I run the program in Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. One of my favorite field days is definitely when we go to Monterey Mushroom. We get to see the full operation, from how they make the compost to how they build the beds. We get to talk about food safety and the different rooms of growing, different stages of growing for the mushrooms. And then at the end of it all, we get to pick our own mushrooms, take them home and eat them, of course.
Yeah, Monterey Mushrooms has been a great partner, and now every time I go to the store, I either try to buy, depending on which store I'm in, I either try to buy Monterey Mushrooms or Premier Mushrooms, which is in Colusa, and they are one of our partners as well for many, many years. So I always look for those two, and if they're not there, then I don't buy mushrooms, because I know exactly where they're from, and I know those companies, and I totally trust them, and it's awesome to have that connection. So thank you, everybody, for a little bit of discussion and excitement about our different sites around the state and what some of the students learn each year. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our guest, Kelly Ansaldo. So Kelly is with something completely different. She's with Coldwell Solar. And some of you may be thinking, solar, how does that have to do with agriculture, with farms and ranches? And it turns out it has a lot to do with agriculture. And Kelly is going to talk to us about her job and what she does and how she came to this point. So it's great to have you, Kelly.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Like Mary said, my name is Kelly Ansaldo. I am with Coldwell Solar. I am a project developer. What does that mean? So that means that I am a salesperson, professional networker. There's a lot of different names for it, but it's my job to reach out to the farmers across the state. Primarily, my territory is here in California, and I talk to them in regards to how solar could benefit their farms, their processing facilities. Right now, PG&E is going through a bankruptcy and they need to recoup that money somehow. Thus, it's getting passed on to the consumers, whether it's on the residential side or on the commercial side. And so it is my job to reach out with them, communicate, and talk to them in regards to how solar can benefit their farms and ranches.
Awesome. So earlier we were talking about how you got to agriculture, and I would love for you to explain about that, because it's a great, the fact that you don't have anybody in your family from agriculture, but yet you knew you wanted to do it. Tell us how that happened and kind of how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of my family's from New Jersey. We moved out to California when I was in junior high. And so registering for high school, there was this class called horse husbandry. And I thought, this is great. I love horses. So I took this class. And again, my family has no agriculture in their background. There is not a personal farm, maybe a garden, because New Jersey is the garden state. So we always had gardens, but there was never any kind of commercial farming. I had no knowledge of what a farm was. I don't think I said the word commodity until I was a freshman in college. So I took this horse husbandry class, and then they started talking about this thing called the FFA. And I thought, what is this? It's blow my mind. And they said, yeah, we raise these animals in the county fair. And again, completely did not know what they were talking about. And they said, yeah, we're going to go get sheep this weekend. Do you want to come? Do you want to get a sheep? And I looked at them crazy, and I thought, no, we don't get sheep. We have dog, if you're lucky. You have goldfish, you have a rabbit. That's it in New Jersey. And so I actually discussed it that evening with my mom, and she said, yeah, hey, why don't you try it? And so that was the catalyst and the start in regards to my agricultural career. I became sectional FFA secretary and president of our chapter, and I just flourished, and it became my passion. After graduating high school, they said you could take your horse to college. And I said, where do I sign up? I came down to Fresno State, majored in agricultural business. And from there, I joined Rabobank and Bank of the West upon graduation, and was a financial analyst. And what the financial analyst is I visit the farms and ranches, and I write the loans for them. So every farm and ranch has some kind of line of credit or a bank that they work with on a regular basis. And that's to pay payroll, because your milk check only maybe comes at the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year. Your almonds, your pistachios, whatever it is, you're not selling something every day to get a paycheck. A lot of the times your commodity checks are coming at a certain period. And so it was my job as a financial analyst to take your income statements and to just analyze that and say, hey, why does Farmer Mary need a loan? And that gave me a really great base to understand people's business from the backside. I did switch into sales because my favorite job of being a financial analyst was going out and talking to that customer, the farmer, going out and talking to that processing manager and seeing where their business was going and how it was evolving. And so I jumped from the backside in a cubicle under 10 feet of tax returns to the front line of a company, being the face. And so as a salesperson, I learned very quickly that my back and past in FFA, the extemporaneous speaking, the public speaking, the showmanship, just something as simple as showmanship in a county fair, really helped poise me to present myself properly to those farmers so that they could see what I was selling. And as a salesperson, there is definitely a few rules that you learn quickly also. You always have to do what you say you're going to do. So if you tell a customer, I'm going to get you a quote by the end of the day, you have to get them that quote by the end of the day. And so when I switched into sales, it was a natural fit for myself. I love being outgoing and I love talking to that customer. And it was just a really natural fit, and it just has evolved into different companies from there on out.
That's a great background. And you and I were talking about this before, because my first job out of college was also in sales. And I had to move to New Jersey. So the opposite of you, I moved from California to New Jersey, and you moved from New Jersey to California. And I was doing telesales. So I literally was in a cubicle calling farmers and ranchers and feed mill operators in like Indiana and North Carolina and Iowa and all these places. And always the thing that I could connect with them on, no matter where they were, was the temperature or the weather and the prices, right? It's kind of like one of those ubiquitous conversations you can have with kind of anybody in agriculture, is usually around weather and around prices. And in that case, it was soybeans and corn or hogs or whatever, but it didn't really matter. You found a way to connect.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There's always a little thing that I say in sales, and I love when I can tell people about my job, because I didn't know that sales was a profession. Being a salesperson, a saleswoman, I had no idea that that was a profession when I graduated college. And so I always say the best thing about being like a salesperson is you have to know a little bit about a lot.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you said. If you can talk about the weather, if you can talk about maybe what's going on in the world, especially right now with COVID, if you're standing in Starbucks waiting for your drink, always, if you're looking to be in sales, or if you're in sales or anything like that, just read the headlines of the newspaper. Because if you know just that snidbit about it, then you allow your customer to talk about that. And that's always really important, because you know a little bit about a lot.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to switch to solar. So
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about some of the types of projects. I know it sounds like May is your 1-year anniversary with Coldwell Solar.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the kinds of projects that you've worked on, and some that, whether big ones, little ones, just some of the really interesting things you've been doing in the last year?
Yeah, so I have a few colleagues and we each specialize in a different entity. So a lot of my colleagues specialize on dairy farms. They have constant energy usage that they're constantly trying to cool that milk or pump the water or anything like that. I specialize in a lot of packing sheds and processing facilities, a lot in which your colleagues have mentioned. So a lot of the Sunkist facilities, J-Lore Winery was one that got turned on this year. So I work with a lot of the large processing and commercial, again, a lot of big demand, a lot of refrigeration. And what we do is every facility already has electricity. So what it is my job to take my background as a financial analyst. And what I do is the first thing I do to a customer is I take their usage and I look at 1 year of usage. And what this allows me to do is to see fluctuations. Maybe a processing facility, like say pistachios. Pistachios are going to be a little bit higher in September because that's when all of the nuts are coming off the tree. They're drying, they're processing. Dairy farms, you're going to see a little bit more of a consistent line. And with electricity, we want to take that demand down. You're always going to have a little bit of a charge from PG&E. And analyzing and taking that analysis is the first thing. It sounds boring, but it's really not, because we want to make sure we capture and build a package for this customer the best way we can. Once we can see your total usage, then what we do is we build a system to match that. There's a lot of programs that we use and to build those. I have I'm not sure how this is going to show up, but here's a small example. Let's see if I can.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know there's a little bit of a glare. This is what we call a roof mount.
Yes.
Visalia Citrus Packing Group. So this is a Sunkist house. And this is solar panels on the roof. So this is an example of a facility that had a demand for solar, but didn't have a lot of land. And so one application that we do is we build it on the roof. So it helps to maximize their land and maximize their efficiency, but still benefiting them in regards to bringing down your solar demand. On an average, we look at a system lasting 30 years. So this is a pretty big investment. It's an investment very similar to a 30-year mortgage on a house, but we have to look at the payback. And what that means is the purchase price that you purchase your solar for, what is it going to pay back in terms of decreasing your electricity? So at what point can you reap the benefits 100% from that? Right now, we're seeing less than a 5-year payback. Typically, we can get it anywhere from 3.5 to 4 years. And so that's great. So that means it's money in your pocket. After 3.5 to 4 years, you've saved enough on your monthly and yearly electric bills that system is 100% paid off.
Wow, that's awesome. And you talked earlier about how I know when I go to Home Depot, or literally people come to the front door and they're like knocking on the door, do you want solar? And it's always, it's a discussion whether or not, where's that break even point, things like that. And so basically you're doing that for very large operations.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what other members of your team at Coldwell, what other kinds of professions are there at Coldwell that you work with?
Yeah. So with my team, I not only have my colleagues, my direct colleagues that are salespeople. And so we each have our own individual. I have an engineer. So the engineer is the one who is going to put all of these little puzzle pieces of solar panels together, string them together. They need to be strung together with electrical wires. So we have engineers on our team. We have accountants on our team because they help us do the analysis in regards to that payback. We also have HR people in our company. So the nice thing is HR people, they understand the ag industry, and all of our customers are agriculture. And so they understand what our customers have to go through on a day-to-day basis. We have project managers who go out to the sites, the construction sites, make sure that everything is going well, that we're on schedule with our build, that the proper materials are ordered. So we have also a purchasing manager, and the purchasing manager, her job is to contact our suppliers and put in POs or purchase orders to make sure that we get our solar panels and to make sure that we get our racking. And racking is just something that holds the solar panel so that the wind doesn't blow it. And we need to make sure that we're having all of our construction people show up on a timely basis. And that has really, especially with this COVID, construction is considered an essential service. So we are still building, we are still moving forward with projects, but we're just doing that on a little bit of a different basis. All of our construction crews are taking the safety precautions. They do have to have masks on. There are now hand washing stations at each one of our locations, where before it may have just been maybe a hand sanitizer next to the porta potty. So just a little bit more steps. Supply wise, luckily, we have not run into any supply issues. There are some solar panels or some pieces of solar panels that do come from China.
Yeah.
We do use supplies that are come from China, but solar panels also, the solar panels that we use are manufactured, or I'm sorry, assembled in Sacramento at Mayfair Air Force Base.
Okay. I thought I recognized the name, and I knew that there was some going on here in Sacramento. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the COVID-19 has affected us, but not to the point where we have stopped or anything like that. For myself, I have always worked remote for the last 10 years in my different sales positions. So for me right now, I'm just not going out and visiting my customers or cold calling, just stopping in at different places. A lot of it is Zoom meetings like this, and customers are 100% actually okay with that. We just have to make sure we're timely with our meetings and hey, on off, as far as getting things done. You know, we're all busy. I do like this time as far as to deal with customers, because you really have their attention. You have the COVID-19 going on, shelter in place, but in reality, there's no salespeople like myself knocking on their door day to day. So they almost have a little bit more time for you, because they're a little bit more streamlined, which makes it really nice.
Yeah, no kidding. So are you seeing, you were mentioning PG&E before and the bankruptcy, are you seeing more interest in solar right now, or would you say that it's kind of been fairly steady? Like, kind of, is there tax rebates? I mean, you know, you see that from the kind of home side of things, the tax rebate piece. Is there something like that going on the ag side, or just in general, what's been the demand lately?
Yeah, so there is a federal tax incentive. There is no longer a California state incentive. That was eaten up very quickly, and the people who were on the front end of that were smart, because it's basically free money to the government to encourage you to purchase and to switch to solar. The federal incentive, we saw a big uptick at the end of last year because it was a 30% tax incentive.
Okay.
That was 2019. 2020, it's a 26% tax incentive. Next year, it'll go down to 23%, so it'll just drop a little bit again. And then it'll drop all the way down in 2022 to 10%. So it really takes a huge jump down. And that, going from the 30 to the 26, so if customers just weren't ready, and nobody likes to sign a contract or execute anything in a haste decision. Nobody wants to make a very large purchase, you know, very quickly. The difference between that 4%, the delta 4%, 30% tax credit in 2019 versus the 26% this year is a difference between about a 3-month payback.
Okay.
So you're only adding about 3 more months on your return on investment when if you didn't sign in 19 versus 20. The incentive is there for to assist and to help out. It makes it really nice. It makes the payback look a little bit better, which makes it nice. But there are actually some farmers who don't like that. they consider it a government handout. And they, just like in 2009 or 2008, 2009, there was a lot of farmers who stopped buying Chevy because they took the handout in regards to the stimulus package, the bailout, exactly. So, you know, that's always an interesting topic in regards to, you know, what's going on. For a payback situation as a salesperson, I add it to my numbers because it makes it look, it makes it look like it has a better payback, but some people are just against that and they don't want that in there, and they don't want to take that handout or that bailout, which is respectable. There's a lot of different political ways that go with, and even though it's just solar, but then it becomes a political issue that somebody doesn't want that bailout.
Sure.
So we do see
that goes back into the point that you made earlier about really getting to know your customer.
Yeah.
And getting to know them and what they want and what's motivating them to do solar, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it takes a while. A lot of times people think it's such a quick process to just meet somebody and sell them something and you're done. And these relationships, to your point, it's a long relationship. You want it to be a long relationship because they might start with one size of solar and then end up their business has expanded, so they need to expand their solar, and you want that relationship to continue and for them to trust you. And so you've got to really get to know what it is that makes them tick, and what it is that will continue to have that relationship with you and your company.
Absolutely. And Mary, like if you were a farmer and you decided today to say, hey Kelly, I'd like to put solar in, it's about, depending on the size of your system, it could be up to 1 year until your solar, quote unquote, is turned on, and then you start reaping the benefits of that. Right. There's a lot of processes that my team has to go through, depending on what county. I know your team, we have Kern County, we have Sacramento County, we have Fresno County. Each one of those counties requires something different from my construction team. Some may want to see a 20-foot fence border around your whole solar system. Some may want to see fence and gravel. Some may not want to see any fence. And so we have to have people who constantly talk with the governments. We have seen a little bit of a slowdown there with with those. Yeah, exactly, with permits. Yeah. Yeah. And but no, it's being in solar and seeing from where I've come from as a financial analyst to what I do now as a solar sales. The whole point is to, like you said, get to know my customer, get to know their entity and what's going to work best for them. One thing you never do as a salesperson is never recommend anything that your customer does not need. That's not going to be bad for your customer. Your customer is looking at you to be the expert. And so for me, the best thing I can do in this realm of solar is to recommend exactly what the customer needs. And if not, help them find what they can need or give them my best recommendation.
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure that if there's any questions and if any staff have questions of Kelly, feel free to ask those. Yeah, I mean, I love I can talk about solar and sales all day, but I want to make sure that others, if you guys have any questions for her. I love the example that you had of the citrus packing. Have you done anything? Sorry, is somebody trying to ask a question?
Yeah, I had a question.
Go ahead, Letty.
Yeah, I had a question. Are you seeing any new innovations coming out of solar? I know, like in Santa Nella, they have a really large solar farm there where they have like sheep grazing underneath them, which is kind of cool. Is there any other things like that happening?
Yeah, so with technology and with solar panels, the technology year over year, just like your computer. So if you buy a computer today, you're going to have a certain gigabyte RAM. I don't know much about computers. Next year, there's going to be one that's slightly better. Same thing with the iPhones. And the same thing we're seeing with solar panels. So what we're seeing is more efficiency. So one solar panel has a size associated with it. Right now, 375 kilowatt is the output of a normal panel. Next year, we're probably going to see a 405. So when you see these sizes of outputs get larger, that means we can actually take up less land or less roof space in regards to the application that we're putting on your property, on your roof, or anything like that. That's the most innovative and game-changing year over year. And then there's also kind of like an internal computer system with those solar panels that gets increasingly better. Now all of your solar farms or solar can be seen just on something simple as your phone. So you can see what your output is doing. You can look on your phone or your computer or any of your devices, your tablets, and say, hey, I have 5 panels out, and then you know exactly where to locate. Whereas before, I would say, and when I say before, maybe let's talk 10 years ago, solar panels used to be like old school Christmas lights. Whereas when one bulb went out, the whole string went out, which was really bad because you're only as good as your production. Just like any farm, right? If you're not putting applications of pesticides and herbicides, you know, you're going to have a decreased yield. So the advancements in solar is really the panels, and then as your efficiency as far as stringing the panels go on that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was thinking when you were talking about the sheep, I know because in Yolo County, there was for a while there, and throughout California, I'm sure, a bunch of interest in having, you know, grazing be underneath these panels. So I don't think Kelly can probably answer this better, but my recollection is it didn't end up working out all that well. And so it was like one of those promises that kind of didn't end up coming to fruition. But I suppose there are some places where that is being used. Have you seen that, like what Letty was talking about, the sheep grazing under the panels?
Not here in the Valley. Most of the panel sites that I see are right around like Tulare, Turlock, and a lot of the counties in the Central Valley are requiring, and on the coast it just might be different just because there's a lot more moisture. So the grass grows a little bit more year round. Whereas here in the Valley, you might have somebody graze under a little bit in the wintertime, but come summertime, there's nothing growing under the panels because they're not really watering under there. There's also not because the panels, a lot of sunlight doesn't get through the panels, maybe just the half an inch that the panels butt together. There's not a lot of growth that grows under there.
Yeah.
You know, if there are, and I want to maybe switch just as sales in general and maybe away from the solar for a second. If you guys have students kind of, you know, looking at different industries and looking at different things to major in, maybe in college or different professions to go down. I had mentioned to you earlier, I didn't know sales was an option. And for me, I've had so much opportunity. I have traveled all over the United States, from Miami to New York City, Austin, Chicago, Canada, but I've also been overseas, such as Hong Kong, Germany, Ireland, and being in sales has really allowed me to, you know, go to different trade shows, have these different wonderful opportunities, and really just network with the community. I feel like I can go to Kern, I can go to Sacramento County, and there are farmers there that you know, or you're going to different industry events, and it is wonderful when you can gain the trust of the agricultural industry and have them know that you have their best interest in mind.
That is a perfect way to close out. We've hit up on our half an hour, and I know you're super busy, Kelly, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time this morning to visit with us. It's awesome to hear more about what the solar industry is doing, especially in agriculture and you know, ranching and production ag, and then also about more about sales and more about the different kinds of jobs that are available that oftentimes we don't think about in the ag. It's not all on the production side. There's all these other service industries, right, that literally feed into agriculture and that require knowledge about agriculture. So from your background in FFA and getting all of those experiences in public speaking, which you're right, very, very valuable, I know. And so, yeah, so it's really great to have you on. And I hope that we'll be able to check in again at some point in the future and hear more about where your new career is taking you in the sales side.
Absolutely. That sounds good. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.